Hi everybody, if you don't know me already, my name is Kaylee. I am a certified nutritionist and gut health specialist, and I love helping people to overcome their chronic gut issues at the root. And I use the principles of ancestral nutrition as well as some other holistic health principles to help people achieve that. So in today's video, this is going to be a gut healing Q&A. So I asked you guys if you had any questions for future Q&As. I asked that on YouTube. I'll make like a little comment thing. I don't know exactly how that works, if it pops up in your feed or not, or if you have to look at it. So I also post on my social media. So if you don't follow me on Instagram or Facebook, whatever you're on most often, I post about it about a week in advance on both of those. So you can ask your questions there, and the links for my Instagram and Facebook are down below in case you want to follow me over there too. So anyway, so this is going to be gut health, gut healing Q&A. There's going to be a lot of different things I cover. I think I have about 7 or 8 questions. I'm going to go over like organs, organ supplements, supplements in general. I have a few questions about SIBO. I've got one about constipation and incomplete bowel movements. I've got one about histamine intolerance. I've got one about sourdough and leaky gut and gluten and that kind of stuff. So it's going to be really, really interesting. These are all questions that I hear some variation of pretty often. So I think that you're going to find a lot of them very interesting and helpful. Yeah, so these are things that help my clients. These are things that I teach my clients. These are just going to be really helpful things. And yeah, so let's get right into it. Okay, so the first question I got was, can ancestral organs, vitamins help you to heal your gut? So I don't know if they're specifically talking about the brand Ancestral Supplements, which I do like that brand. I think it's a good one. But in general, I'm going to talk about organ supplements. So if you're not familiar, these are just freeze-dried, I believe it is, organs, and then they're ground into powder so you can take them. So organ meats are extremely nutritious. I highly recommend them for gut healing. I have pretty much almost every one of my clients, if not every single one, I have take organs. There are a few rare reasons why they cannot work for certain people, but for the most part, they are an excellent, excellent thing to include. However, while some of my clients go, oh my God, I can't wait, I'm gonna put liver in my diet. Other ones go, oh gross, no way. So if you're in the latter category, organ supplements are excellent for you. So yes, I highly recommend them. Let's see. So fresh is better. But the supplements are still awesome. They're made from a whole real food. So it's, you know, it's not like synthetic. It's not funky. It actually works like a real food. When you take those supplements, you can open them up, you can put them in your food. You know, there's a lot of great ways to do it. But if you can eat fresh, that is even better. But if you can't, those supplements are awesome. The reason that they're so great is because they're really, really nutrient dense in nutrients you need to heal your gut. So like vitamin A, for example, liver is very, very high in vitamin A, is essential for healing and sealing leaky gut. Also, you need nutrients to make stomach acid, to make digestive enzymes, and really keep your whole digestive system functioning well. So you need nutrients to break down your food to be able to absorb nutrients, and then you need nutrients for so many things. So I love those. I think they're amazing. Yeah, like I said, I like Ancestral Supplements. I think that's a good company. Heart and Soil is a good one too. There are so many out there now. There's just more and more coming out there. So there are a lot of great options on the market for really good quality organ meat supplements that you can take. Yeah, I hope that answered that question. It's a pretty big giant yes, so I tried to throw in a few more things there. So I'm going to move on to the next one. So the second question is very long, but I'm going to read the whole thing because I think it was phrased very well and there was a lot of intent put into it. So I want to make sure that I fully address everything and really get what this person was asking across. So anyway, so the second one is, why is a wheat bread made with sourdough healthier for the gut and the intestines than a wheat bread baked with baker's yeast? If both breads have a long dough rest, and if both breads only contain the ingredients water, flour, salt, and the only difference is yeast and sourdough. If I'm correct, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that protein. One of the proteins found in gluten causes leaky gut in everyone because it releases zonulin, and zonulin opens the tight junctions of the mucosa layer in the intestines. So how can not processed, traditionally baked and long fermented sourdough or yeast bread be part of a gut-friendly, healthy diet when gluten is treated by our body's guts and immune system like a pathogen and triggers an immune reaction and damages the gut lining, regardless of whether someone is sick, have gut problems or not? I don't get it, thanks. Okay, so this is an excellent question, and it sounds like you already know so many things and you are so close to the answer. So there's a few parts to address here. So first of all, I'll start with the difference between the sourdough and the yeast bread. So the big difference here is sourdough is going to break down the wheat. It's going to break down the flour and the water and the salt, or the salt doesn't need breaking down, but the other ingredients, if you just put baker's yeast in there, even if it's sitting for a while, for a few hours to rise, it doesn't have that same start that the sourdough starter gives it. And also sourdough starter, those kinds of breads have to go for much longer. Let's see, I'll start mine midday, and it takes about like 24 hours for me from when I start that to actually being able to bake it. So it's gonna go longer. With the starter, the whole idea is you are cultivating a whole microbe environment in there because you keep feeding these microorganisms and they keep growing. So with a starter, you already have all these microbes that are good cultivated in your starter. When you add that to the flour and water for your bread, the flour acts as like food for those microbes and they start eating it up and like multiplying. So you have a lot of really good friendly microbes. This is going to be like eating fermented foods in that starter, in that bread. So when you bake it, you're going to lose a lot of that, but still there's a lot of really great microbes there, and they're like pre-digesting it for you, so you don't have to do as much of the digestion. And wheat is really hard on your body. It's high in anti-nutrients. It's difficult to break down. So when you have the starter and the sourdough taking its time to really break things down, it really breaks down phytic acid a lot, which is awesome. That's an anti-nutrient. It just makes it a lot more digestible. It's the traditional way of making things. If you take baker's yeast, it's like a more isolated form that they found over the years to just kind of kickstart it, and it's very reliable and works really fast. But because it's working so fast, it doesn't have the time, and even if you were to let it go longer, it doesn't have that same like kickstart that the starter gets it. So you don't have like all these microbes being introduced to your bread to start fermenting everything. So you just don't get that same fermentation, which is why sourdough bread tastes so much sour. So that's why that's easier for your gut than baker's yeast bread. So that's why sourdough is much better. But I'm going to get into the next part of your question now. So let's see. Okay, so sourdough bread is not necessarily part of a gut healing diet. So if you have leaky gut, if you have food sensitivities, if you have severe gut issues, even if you have moderate gut issues, I tell my clients to cut out gluten because of exactly what you're saying. It's the zonulin, it's increasing the gaps, it's causing leaky gut or worsening leaky gut. If you already have leaky gut, having gluten will only keep your gut leaky, because even if you're doing things to heal it, you're going to keep having that zonulin come in and make it leaky again. So it's really not part of a gut healing diet. I do have a few clients that will have non-leaky gut related issues. They'll be kind of issues maybe just with their bowels or with acid reflux, with like another part of their digestive system, and they're not like super severe, and they're able to have some sourdough in their gut healing diet. But the vast majority of my clients have to cut out gluten. I cut out gluten for a few years. You don't necessarily have to cut it out for that long. I was just being extra cautious. But anyway, so it's not always part of a gut healing diet, and that's exactly why. Now, the other part of your question is like, okay, but what about people that are healthy? Like, doesn't this just cause leaky gut? So yes and no. There are a lot of foods that can do a little bit of damage to your body, but our bodies are very, very resilient. So the most important thing is to be aware of what those foods are, to prepare them properly if you're going to eat them, to not eat tons of those foods, and to really keep it in moderation. So for myself, for example, I would just kind of call these mostly the high anti-nutrient foods, so like grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, and then, you know, obviously wheat is a grain, so it's right in there, and then there is the zonulin component to it that is kind of an extra level, but lectins in grains and nuts and seeds and legumes also can cause leaky gut by the same kind of thing. So those are all going to be more middle ground foods that you don't want to go crazy on. So I don't consume large amounts of those, and I consumed even less when I was healing my gut. So some of my clients have to completely cut out those categories. Most of them can have some. They just have to properly prepare them and really be mindful and really say bye to gluten for a little while. So yeah, so you really don't want to have a ton of it. Your body, if you already have a sealed, tight, healthy gut lining and you have a little bit of gluten, it's not going to cause full-blown leaky gut for you. It might like start to open it ever so slightly, and then because you're healed and you're not sick, it's going to tighten back up pretty quickly and not really cause issues as long as you're not having it all the time. So like I don't have wheat super often, I don't have sourdough bread all the time, I don't have grains that often, and I always either soak or sprout or ferment them. So let me just check and see if I kind of got everything there. Oh, one more thing is you want to make sure if you are going with bread that you want to get organic bread, because glyphosate, which is very commonly sprayed on wheat, which is also called Roundup, that can also cause leaky gut by the same manner of increasing the zonulin. So you don't want to like have inorganic bread. That's going to make it worse. So you want to make sure it's organic, and you want to make sure it's sourdough and fermented well, and that will just help a lot more if you're going to consume it. So yeah, I think that kind of, I hope that answered your question. So it's fermented is going to be a lot better. It's not perfect. It's not going to work for everyone who's healing their gut, and you still have to be careful with it. There are a lot of foods like that, you know, sugar, all grains, nuts and seeds, alcohol, where some people just have ones they really enjoy and a little bit isn't going to be a huge deal. So I really could care less about alcohol or sugar or cashews or lentils or things like that, but I really love a little bit of sourdough bread every once in a while. I love chicken pot pie with the regular crust, so I'll go for foods like that because I find they're really enjoyable and I'm not having tons of them. So yeah, hopefully, I really hope that answers your question, because it was a long one. I could tell there's a lot of thought put into it. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the next one. Okay, what foods should I avoid if I have methane SIBO, and how would you treat methane SIBO? So, okay, I don't know if you can see in the video, but it started raining really hard. So hopefully it stops or it doesn't rain too hard. Anyway, so what foods should I avoid if I have methane SIBO, and how would you treat methane SIBO? So you want to avoid foods that are going to feed the pathogenic microbes. So you want to avoid sugar and refined carbs, artificial sweeteners, and then too much fiber as well. All of these are going to feed those pathogenic microbes that you are having grow in your small intestine. So I mean, a lot of those you can tell are foods you don't want to normally have, but right now, like, fiber is really not going to be your friend, so you want to kind of minimize that. That will help with the intense symptoms of SIBO, with the bloating and the really uncomfortable symptoms, but you're also going to need to address this at the root, so that will partly address the root. You're not feeding the microbes, but you do have to do a little bit more than that. So dietary-wise, that's what I would avoid. Avoid the sugars, refined carbs, artificial sweeteners, and fiber. Also avoid alcohol, because that just kind of bombs your microbiome. It just gets rid of a lot of the good guys, and then the sugars can kind of feed the bad guys too, so it really messes up your microbiome. And SIBO is really a microbiome issue most of the time. That's a huge component. Also, just avoid unhealthy foods, processed foods, seed oils, all that kind of stuff you don't want to be having. It's not going to help you heal. So then, to actually treat methane SIBO, what I would recommend is really getting to the root cause of it. There's going to be a couple different things. Most of the time, like I said before, your microbiome is going to be the biggest component. So if you want to learn more about, gut dysbiosis when your microbiome is off and how to fix it, I will link a video up above that talks about that in depth. There's a few other things. So stress can be another trigger. So I know it's cliche, I know it's talked about all the time, but the reason it is because it's so freaking important. So you really want to look at your stresses in your life and manage that. Poor diet can be a really big cause too. So you want to look at all aspects of your diet beyond what I talked about before. It really needs to be a good ancestral healing diet, which I talk about all the time on this channel. So then you need lots of fermented foods. That's going to come back to fixing gut dysbiosis. So if you're having a lot of fermented foods like yogurt or kefir, or sauerkraut or kimchi or fermented veggies, that's going to help reintroduce the good microbes that are kind of going to bring things back into balance and push the microbes back into your large intestine so they're not overgrowing in the small intestine. Oh, and I forgot to write this down here, but I just remembered. Another part is you want to make sure you have strong stomach acid, because if you don't have strong stomach acid, you can get a lot of extra microbes like coming from your food that you don't want into your small intestine. So it's really important you have strong stomach acid so you're digesting your food well. That's a whole another topic, but essentially you need to be getting enough nutrients like sodium and zinc and magnesium so you can make your stomach acid. You need to be relaxed while you're eating so you can actually absorb the nutrients out of those foods, and you want to avoid like antacids and things like that are going to really mess up your stomach acid. And you can take like apple cider vinegar water for a little while just to kind of help get things on track. That's not a root cause fix, but it does help relieve symptoms, and it's really, really helpful in the healing process. So that's another element to healing. In some cases, you can use oregano oil. I don't like to jump to this because it's like a natural antibiotic, so it's a lot better than antibiotics, but it still kind of wipes things out. But if you've been trying like all the natural things and they're just not working and you want to try something else, then oregano oil can be a good option. To just kind of kill some of that off. But then you have to be really, really diligent about your fermented foods to make sure that you're building back a good microbiome. So that's an option. It's not necessary, but it can be helpful for some people. So then let's see. Okay, the fourth question. If you could choose one supplement for digestive health, which would it be and why? Okay, so I really don't use a lot of supplements. Most of the time when I use supplements, it's more so because there's like a certain food, like organs, that one of my clients like really doesn't want to eat. So I'll recommend an organ supplement. That's like the most common. Sometimes someone's like really opposed to bone broth, so they'll take like bone broth collagen powder or just collagen powder or something like that. I really prefer meat stock or bone broth or whole food sources over that, but those are generally what that's kind of going to look like. Sometimes for detoxing, I will like give optional supplements. You really don't need them, but sometimes people like to include like binders in their detoxing routine. So this is just a little caveat to say I really don't use a lot of supplements. Most of my clients that are taking supplements like chose to do so on their own, and I'm usually telling them, hey, you really don't need to be taking all these supplements. So, of course it varies. Everybody's different. I'm not totally anti-supplements either, but I just don't really use a lot of them because I don't find them very necessary. But with that being said, if I picked one, I would pick organ supplements. And more particularly, I would pick a mixed organ supplement that includes liver. And then, usually those include like heart and kidney, and sometimes they include like pancreas or spleen or something like that. But I would pick a mixed organ supplement that includes liver and some other organs, just because you're getting more organs, so it's going to be more balanced nutrient-wise. But liver just gives you a huge boost of nutrients. It helps you to make sure you're getting all your nutrients in. Oh my God, when you look at liver, it has so many wonderful things in it. It's got B vitamins, it's got vitamin A, it's got copper, it's got iron, it's got choline, I believe. It's got so many things in it. So that's my favorite. I make a liver pate, so that's how I get mine in. But yeah, I would say like a liver and other organ supplement would be my favorite supplement. And then, that's really it. And then I did actually just make a video on like my top 5 digestive aids. So that kind of might answer your question a little more too, because those are more the top 5 foods that really help your digestive system. So I think if you're interested in that, I'll link it above. It's kind of along the same lines. Okay, so the 5th question. My question would be what to eat when you have histamine intolerance. I can't do meat as I can't find unaged and react to everything. Okay, so I have a few thoughts here. So 1, I would eat kidney. And I know that that might sound weird. You can get a kidney supplement, piggybacking off of earlier. You don't have to eat fresh kidney, although I find kidney tastes way better than liver personally. But anyway, so kidney is high in DAO enzymes, and those are really, really helpful for helping you to break down and just process histamine better. So kidney is really helpful for people with histamine intolerance and just will kind of bring some of your food sensitivities down so you can tolerate more food. So that is a huge, huge thing I would recommend eating. Meat stock or other low histamine sources of collagen would be really great too, because they're just so rich in collagen and so powerful for healing your gut and very, very soothing. But you probably want to avoid bone broth right now because it's high in histamine. So a lot of people that react to histamine do much better with meat stock, which is pretty much the same thing, but it's just cooked for like 2 or 4 hours instead of like 12 hours or 24 hours. So that's going to be a really great thing. You know, marrow bones, shank, oxtail, bone and skin on poultry, anything like that that you can tolerate. I know you said meat's a little hard, so whichever ones you can. I've noticed also some of my clients with histamine intolerance will tolerate like chicken or fish better than beef. Everyone's a little bit different, so I would just say find the animal foods that you're tolerating better, find the fruits and veggies that you're tolerating better, and don't obsess too much about what foods you're tolerating and what foods you're not tolerating. Sometimes I find people get trapped down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out exactly what foods they're sensitive to. And I would say the better route is to make sure you're really including nutrient-dense foods, getting all your nutrients in from foods that you know you're not like horribly tolerating. So if it's something like, I had a client that when she ate eggs, she used to get diarrhea every single time. So even though eggs are an amazing food, I was like, hey, eggs aren't a great thing for you now. And you know, a few months later, she was healed and able to eat eggs again. But for the time being, that wasn't a good option for her. So if you have like a very obvious reaction that you can pinpoint what food it is, yeah, avoid that food. But if you're like, sometimes when I eat asparagus, I feel bad after it and sometimes I don't, and I'm not really sure if it's that. I also had this or whatever, like, don't worry about that. You don't need to pinpoint it that extreme, because if you're reacting to like seemingly everything, that's a deeper issue that you really got to heal. A lot of times it can be leaky gut, like you said here. Histamine intolerance is one of those, but still there's going to be a root cause to that histamine intolerance. So you really need to get your digestive system functioning better, and a huge part of that is getting your nutrients in, because nutrients are what heal your digestive tract and your gut, and also, like I said before, what make those digestive enzymes, what makes stomach acid, what makes bile, what makes everything you need to keep your digestive system functioning properly and keep everything working the right way. So just make sure you don't fall into that trap of like cutting out too much and not getting enough nutrients in, because you can't really get out of that until you're getting the nutrients in so that you can repair your body, and then you can start to move out of that. So, you know, you don't have to eat like exactly how someone else does. You know, find foods that work well for you. In my clients, like, they all have different diets. I teach the same kind of principles, and everyone kind of applies them in a different way and finds foods that they like. I have clients that just go hog wild on the red meat and they love it, and they're like, I'm not into chicken and fish, I want like all the red meat. And then I have clients that are like, I really don't like red meat, but I'll eat chicken and fish. So, you know, figure out what works for you. Let's see what else I have. Yeah, like, sorry, it's not like an exact food list, but everyone's so different that it's really hard to give that. So yeah, I would say definitely get kidney. Kidney's rich in a lot of other nutrients too, so it'll help you with starting to get these more nutrients in that will help you to heal your body. They're really easy to absorb, they're really easy to use, and it has that DAO enzymes in it, so it will really help you to break down histamine a little better and then hopefully have less reactions. So I would say focus a little less on like what foods am I super sensitive to, and focus more on like how can I make sure my diet is a gut healing diet that's gonna move me in the right direction. Okay, so oh yeah, side note, somebody messaged me this question instead of put it in the little like question box thing. So when I went to put it in the question, so I forgot, I accidentally like changed the question that was supposed to say like put your questions here, and then it had like this whole question there. So one person responded like, is this a question? So in case you're watching, that's what happened. I goofed up and put a question there by mistake. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. I just made a mistake. But anyway, so the next question. So my question, I have SIBO. I was vegan 5 years, but since 2 years, I went back to meat plus bone broth. I've done a lot of improvements over 2 years, but SIBO is still on. I didn't cut carbs though. I had gluten-free grains, only soaked, etc. I deeply know GAPS-carnivore diet would be best to introduce, but I just don't want to. Do you think it's the only way sometimes? Thanks, regards. Okay, so I have a few things here too. So I've been where you are, vegan with bad gut issues and adding meat back in. Now for some people, that's their missing piece. They add meat in and then boom, their healing and everything goes great and like skyrockets, but that's honestly not the case for everyone. It was kind of that way for me, but I have had a lot of clients that come to me like exactly where you're at. Like, hey, I was vegan for a while, but I introduced meat and it helped a lot, but I'm just not all the way there yet. So it just means that you have some other root causes that you haven't dealt with, or maybe you haven't implemented every part of your diet quite the right way. There's a lot of variations with including meat, so there are other things you might be able to do with tweaking your diet. Now, that does not mean you necessarily have to do GAPS or a carnivore diet. So let's see, let me make sure I stay on track. Okay, I talked more about SIBO earlier, so I'm going to talk like a little bit different and go more into your question on the other areas here. So let's see. So it's important to address both the dietary causes and the non-dietary causes of SIBO too. So like I said, it's great that you introduced meat again. It's awesome that that's helped a lot. And there are probably some other dietary shifts that you can make. I have yet to find anyone that doesn't have at least a few dietary shifts you can make. I could probably still make a few to be even better. Oh yeah, I could, but I don't want to spend like $50 on a tiny jar of caviar. So I need to find a different way to get omega-3 in. But anyway, side note. So okay, yeah, so make sure you address the non-dietary sides of this too. Stress, making sure your digestive system is working well, toxin overload, all those kinds of things I talk about all the time. So that's going to be important. And then dietary wise, I totally get what you're saying. I have been there too. There was a time in my life where I thought that I had to be like gluten-free and vegan, and that would be the healthiest way. And I never did it. I was like vegan for a while, but I was like, I can't add gluten-free too. This is like way too much. And then I would like beat myself up over it. And now I know that's a horrible route to go. But anyways, I felt that before. And then also when I was keto, I used to feel like I should be carnivore right now. It's better. Like that's what I need to do. But I just can't quite bring myself to go that extreme. There was a time where I thought, oh, I need to be eating only 2 meals a day. I have to fast for much longer. I need like an 18-hour fasting window. But I could never like bring myself to do it. It was just, it did not work for me. I was just too mentally resistant to it. And it's funny because now I look back on that and I'm like, well, yeah, neither of those are like the best idea. Like they work for some people, but that really wasn't a good idea for me. I needed some carbs in my diet and I function better when I eat 3 meals a day. So I'm just saying, like, I totally understand that pull to like, oh, if I just did this, like that would help. But you really don't always need to go that restrictive. Now, I love GAPS. I think it's wonderful. But I also see how it's really hard for some people to stick to. So I don't go that strict if I don't have to with people. I start with an ancestral diet, which I talk about a lot, which is going to be nose to tail animal foods, eating well-cooked veggies, eating fruits, eating dairy if you can tolerate it, eating eggs, eating some grains, nuts, seeds, and legumes if they're properly prepared for some people. Some people have to cut those out. But yeah, that's kind of the general route I go with the diet. I don't go as strict as GAPS unless someone really has to, but I have also yet to find someone of my clients, so I'm sure there are plenty of people out there, but of my clients, I've yet to have someone have to go to GAPS to heal. They've been able to heal on this ancestral diet instead. So another key component is you have to be on something you can be consistent with. So maybe you could heal faster on GAPS intro if you were perfectly consistent with it, but if you can't bring yourself to start it, or you feel like you can't be consistent with it, if you pick something that's a little bit less restrictive, like an ancestral diet, which is actually probably a lot less restrictive than GAPS intro. GAPS in general, I would say it's a little less restrictive. But anyway, if you pick something like that, it can be a lot easier to stick to. Also, you're thinking more in terms of food groups with an ancestral diet. You don't have to memorize exactly what veggies to have, what you can't have. So it's a little bit easier in that sense as well. So if you do that and you can stick to it, then you can still heal, and maybe it takes you a few weeks longer or a month longer, not that much more, but because you were actually able to stick to it, you're healed, instead of if you went the route of doing something more restrictive like GAPS that you weren't sticking to and you were kind of falling off and then back on, then it's going to lengthen out that process. So I really focus with people on going the amount of restriction you need to be able to heal, but not past that, so that it's the most sustainable possible, and so that you're really thinking about this as, how am I changing the way I eat, instead of what is this temporary diet that I'm doing. It's just, this is how I eat because this is going to heal my gut, and then once I'm healed, I can have a little more flexibility to stray outside this, but I'm still going to stick to this 80-90% of the time. So I do not think you have to go that serious or that strict, especially for SIBO too. GAPS intro is gonna be amazing, more so for people that are oh, I've had an autoimmune issue for 20 years and it's really bad, or I've had Crohn's disease for 12 years and I have horrible diarrhea all the time, or people that have really, really severe issues. I think it's amazing for. If you don't have quite that level of intensity, I really don't think you need it to heal. So that's my take on that. Let's see if I kind of got everything I wanted to say. Yeah, so hopefully that helped. I don't think you need to do that. Hopefully you got some of the SIBO tips from earlier in the video too on what I recommend for that. So definitely follow those same things, and then sticking to a more ancestral diet and really figuring out your root causes of your SIBO and addressing those. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go super restrictive. Now, you can't be binging on whatever food you want or eating a bunch of things that don't work well, but yeah, you don't need to go the other extreme either. So hopefully that helped. Okay, my 7th and last question. Why during passing stools is my colon not contracting, and in bowel movements, sorry, the grammar's a little bit off, is happening. Okay, why during passing stools is my colon not contracting, and having incomplete bowel movements? That's what's happening even when the stool is present in the sigmoid colon. Okay, got it. So let's see. So the first part, not contracting. Oh, also the sigmoid colon is the last portion of the colon right before your anus. So not contracting. So there's a few reasons for this. So if you're not having those contractions despite your stools being right there, ready to go, and it's just not getting out, that can be because of stress. If you're stressed, it's not the time to have a bowel movement. Your body still thinks that you're out in the wild, and that stress is because you have some sort of danger around you. So, if you were in battle, or if you're fighting a mountain lion or running from, I don't know, some creature or mudslide or something, and your body was like, oh my God, I have to go to the bathroom right now and nothing can stop it, that would not be good for your survival. So that's kind of ingrained into our bodies. So when you're stressed, it really, really inhibits you from being able to have a bowel movement. So you really have to be relaxed. So that's one key component. Another area can be mineral deficiency. Minerals are going to be those main things that are going to be responsible for contracting and relaxing muscles. So it's really important that you have enough minerals. If you're stressed, it depletes minerals. So both of these are important. And then it can get weakened over time, your ability to contract. That can be from a few different things. So if you use a lot of laxatives, or if you use enemas a lot, it's fine to use a little bit, but if you're using it like all the time, it can weaken those muscles because they're not being used frequently enough. And then also, if you've fallen out of the habit of having an urge, there can be a few reasons, because those contractions are really associated with the urge to have a bowel movement, the urge to go now, that's what's pushing things out. So you can lose that urge if you just don't consistently use it, if you don't consistently have the same time you're going to the bathroom, if you're always stressed all the time. There's a lot of different things that can cause that, but it is something that you can build back. You can get that urge back. I had a client that was constipated for a really long time, and she built that urge back just by working on her diet, her digestive health, and actually even having hot water with lemon and ginger and salt really helped her. Obviously, it wasn't just that. We did a lot of other work to get it back, but that helped her to kind of give her like a little trigger for like the urges in the morning. So I know it sounds really simple, but it really worked for her. So, there's a lot of things you can do to really build those urges back. So, okay, so let's talk about the incomplete portion. So this can be for a few things. It's really constipation. If you're not completely emptying, this is a form of constipation. Now, with constipation, you have stools staying in your large intestine for too long. They are getting compacted. They're getting larger, and more water is being absorbed out of them, because that's something that happens in your colon. Water gets absorbed out of your stools and back into your body. So they're getting drier. So they're getting harder and bigger, and it hurts to get that out sometimes, and it's way harder to get a big, fat, hard, dry stool out. So it really is like this cycle that makes things worse. And whenever you have a cycle where one thing's worsening another, you're constipated, so it's harder to get your stools out, so you get more constipated. You have to find a way to just stop that cycle and start moving in the opposite direction, even if it's small. So you have to find a way to start getting a little bit more out, getting a little bit more consistent with your bowel movements, getting them a little bit softer. And there's a lot of different things that you can do for that, but that's the direction you should be headed to help with that portion. Stress is a huge reason for this. Poor diet, too much fiber in your diet, anything like that is going to really lead to this. Yeah, so let's see if I got that pretty well. Yeah, so if they're still really just sitting there, you're not having the contractions, this really sounds like constipation. It sounds like your stools are too big to pass easily, which means they're not coming out frequently enough. So you need to change your diet, get your digestive system working well, your health better, make sure your stress is managed, make sure you have really good routines in the morning, making sure you're getting plenty of exercise and movement in as well. That's really helpful for keeping things moving down there too. So yeah, those are kind of the main things to focus on. It's a little harder at first, but once you get the ball rolling and you start having those bowel movements more consistently, they won't be getting so large and hard to pass. And you'll get in this routine where you have this habit of consistently getting these urges around the same time. And that will really help you to get it all out. Also, make sure you're spending enough time on the toilet when you're constipated. Sometimes you just need to give your body more time to get everything out. And if you don't sit there long enough, sometimes those last little pieces just like hang out right there. And you're like, why are you hanging out there? You should be leaving my body right now. But sometimes more time is kind of all you need. you have to kind of like almost baby it a little bit more at the beginning, and then it'll get a lot easier. So hopefully that gave you some direction there. I also have a lot of videos about constipation and overcoming constipation. That was my big issue, so I have a lot of info about it. So I'll link, I have a playlist, I'll link it up above about overcoming constipation. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I've done one other Q&A before, so let me know if you like this. Let me know if you want to hear more. Yeah, just let me know in the comments if this is something I should do more frequently. If you have more questions you want me to answer, let me know. I want to hear about it. If you liked this video, you can let me know what you liked about it. Let me know what you want to see more of in the future. I always really appreciate your comments. I really like reading them. So yeah, I hope you liked it. And then also I want to let you know, if you asked a question and you got an answer, or maybe you didn't get in on time to ask a question, but you like having these more in-depth answers, this is something that I do for my clients, except we get to go back and forth on it. We get to live talk to each other about this, and you can ask your follow-up questions, and I know about your history specifically. So I already know what you're doing. I know what your diet's like. I know if you're taking supplements or not. I know what you've been trying. I know what you tried in the past. So we can move forward so much better, because if you have, SIBO, I can go, okay, well, increase these fermented foods here, or cut out this food here, or, oh, your stomach acid's low. This is how we can fix it. So if you want that more personalized help, where you have someone that really understands exactly what you're going through, exactly where you want to be, and knows how to get there, and just gives you that support along the way, that's exactly what I do for my clients. I give them a roadmap to heal their gut, to get their digestive system functioning well. I really help them narrow down a diet that's built for them to heal their gut. Everyone is different. Like I mentioned in this video quite a few times, there are certain things that are going to work better for other people. There are certain conditions that are going to make you have to kind of pivot and do a different little road than everybody else. So I help you really build out that road that's built for you to get from where you are to where you want to be with your gut health. So if you would like more help with that, or you just want to find out more about what I offer and how I can help you to heal your gut, get symptom free, feel energized again, and just feel like your body is working the way it's supposed to be, I will leave a link down below, and you can book a call with me. Tell me more about, what's going on with your gut, what's going on with your health, where you want to be, and then I can share more about how I can help you to achieve your goals if I can. So yeah, I would love to talk to you on a call if that's something that you're interested in. Again, I will leave a link down below. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see my other Q&A, I have another one, so I'll link it right over there. And then if you want to see something different, I think the next kind of logical thing to learn about would be the main root causes that cause all these gut issues. So I have a video where I talk about the 5 most common root causes and how to address those. So I'll put that one there if you want to check it out. Thanks for watching.